Hey guys, what's going on? It's April 28th, Tuesday, sunny day, 11 a.m., beautiful day. So, give you some updates today and what's going on here. So what's interesting is we have some really big numbers coming up here. As of, I think as of yesterday, the Hubei province had 0 cases, came down to 0 cases, and what I had expected, we have 1 million cases as of today. I think I reported about, how many, gosh, was this 10 days ago? Almost 2 weeks ago, we were at about 500 to 600,000 cases in the US. And then, 10 days flew by, and then we have 1 million cases. I think around 600,000 in the cases. That was kind of like the turnaround people thought, like they were able to bend the curve, and then people, jump really quick on a decision to loosen their restrictions, and then boom, it just went up to even more infections. So we got, as of today, April 28th, in the US, we got 1 million cases. Congratulations. I mean, what can I say? When you have, just when you were at the peak, you're gonna go out and protest and then reinfect again. It just completely blew my mind. Just doesn't make any sense. These people, all these efforts that all these doctors and nurses, the medical staff, were doing all these efforts to contain this virus, trying to bend the curve. And then there's people, well, kind of like this is part of the culture, if you have a majority living from paycheck to paycheck. So after a month or so, they couldn't, probably they ran out of money, and then they're supposed to get $1,200 for, compensation. I guess that's not enough, and barely enough to pay their rent, I guess. And then they came out, they couldn't stand it anymore to stay home. They want their freaking freedom. Here we go. You got your freedom at 1 million more infections. 500,000 more infections makes 1 million more 1 million cases total now. So last time it's been doubling. It was around 9 to 10 days. So maybe to be conservative, 2 weeks. So if they don't, enforce their laws, enforce the restrictions, and then continue to protest and doing their homework, that means they're gonna reach 2 million cases in 3-4 weeks maybe. So yeah, then we have another milestones for these idiots. So as I said, as of yesterday, Hubei province has 0 cases. Yeah, I think the numbers now that they have closed the borders to the outside world, the numbers have gone down drastically. Now we have come down to 1,100 total in China. 2 weeks, 10 days before I was making the video, it was about 1,800. So yeah, but then it has slowed down. Let me cross the street. It has slowed down. It has slowed down because of the influx of people coming from outside of China. But then once that was once they closed the borders and stuff, the numbers came down really drastically, especially Hubei province and Wuhan. So now that the numbers have come down in China, and then the increase in number in the United States, Europe has come down a lot, the numbers, but in the United States has gone up. Continuously going up, and now you see a lot of Western medias like blaming China on a constant daily basis, this and that. Okay, I think the news and the Western medias are really horrifying. I mean, whatever they report, it's so much BS. I mean, let me tell you what's really going on here, and not this garbage Western BBC, CNN, all this freaking Fox News and fake news, what have you. Okay, I've been traveling to a lot of different cities. They still have a lot of strict measures, and then the most strict measures they had was in Beijing. So one day prior to our flight to Beijing from Guiyang, the southern part of China, a day prior to our departure, they sent us a message from the airline saying that I got distracted by somebody, saying that when anybody coming to Beijing, regardless of foreigners or locals, need to be quarantined for 14 days. And I was like, shit, man, I can't stay get stuck in Beijing or anywhere else for 14 days because I need to work. So we called the airline and also the exit and entry bureau in Beijing, and they gave us a lot of mixed messages they didn't know. And even when we got to the airport in Guiyang, where we were headed to Beijing, they were telling us you need to be quarantined for 14 days. And then we're like, really? We called the authorities in Beijing. They said that we don't need to, and they said they didn't know that they can't guarantee us. So we just better tell you to be prepared for the 14 days quarantine. And we're like, oh shit. So we expected kind of like the worst, to be quarantined and stuff. But when we got to Beijing, it was all good. Didn't even check. But then also when we returned from Beijing to Shanghai, we expected a lot more checks and stuff. And for some reason, the entire train was kind of empty. And I guess because of the news that were spread that people need to be quarantined for 14 days, so a lot of people just stay away from Beijing. So the entire train coming back to Shanghai was kind of like empty. So it was just a few people on the entire train. So that was very interesting. Okay, that's that in terms of traveling and stuff. But let's talk about like what's happening on ground here in Shanghai. So most of the people that I see still wearing the mask, despite the really in Shanghai we only have 50 something official cases. There might be a lot of people, not a lot of people, some people that are asymptomatic, but we don't know. I mean, but the official number is like 50 cases, but people still want to be like safe, and everybody's like wearing masks, like, because we spend so much work on like doing all this quarantine and sacrificing. You don't want to want it to be reinfected again, for whatever reason. So people are still extremely careful. Oh, I see a guy here doesn't wear a mask out of 4 people, so that's 25% that does not wear a mask. So anyways, that's that. So now the thing that worries about me when I go to some parks and some of places when the weather is good, people coming out, and I hear, but I didn't experience that. My friend just told me that he went to a park where a lot of people do exercise and stuff. He said that a lot of people were not wearing a mask. That kind of worries me. So I hooked up with him and I grabbed a beer with my buddy, and there's mostly like these places like mostly foreigners, kind of when I think about it, I got a little scared, like talking to people like coming real close to me. Oh, like, keep your distance, So, and then, what else? Yeah, I see a lot of people posting on WeChat that a lot of clubs, like a lot of my friends that work, they're business owners and stuff, they're owning clubs and restaurants and stuff. And I see them posting, people, go clubbing again, going back to the bars and stuff. So that kind of worries me that, it needs to start really slowly. Even the numbers that come down to zero, I want to be still careful, because you have a lot of international cases, a lot of people from abroad coming in. Maybe, they suspended a lot of flights, but still, you never know. You want to be, like, China is probably like very safe and then very precautious about all this stuff. So if they say there's 0 cases, there is probably a pretty high chance that it is at 0%, 0 cases. Okay, that's some word from the reality here, what's happening here. Of course, when I look at the Western media, all this stuff, whatever they're reporting about China is very terrifying and stuff. Like the facts are never facts here, so it's like always lies and what have you. Yeah, that has something to do with entitlement, I guess. People from the West, they're kind of like a democratic country, so no matter what they do, they're always right. So whatever China does, because it's not a democratic system, it's always wrong no matter what they do. You see what's happening in the States right now? People are protesting when they're supposed to stay at home and, to protect yourself and other people. For some reason, I think they're incompetent, running that system. They're incompetent to contain this virus. There's nothing they can do. Right now, at this moment, the only thing they can do is just play the blame game. And that's pretty sad, when that's the only solution you have right now. And I'm afraid at the million cases by now, we're almost headed to May. And, by the time they get down the numbers a little bit, the winter's coming, and people, like Dr. Fauci is already saying, like, they're gonna get a lot of complications being affected with the regular flu. And then now you have, to deal with the virus, and then winter's coming. So I don't think they can fix this issue, They're gonna have to live with this until they can develop a vaccine for this, So I think what the government is doing right now is winning time and just giving you some excuses, like blame game, blame other people, and then that's all they can do right now, and just win time, because right now their system is just not capable to deal with this crisis. They're good in building tanks and bombing other countries and invading other countries, but then I don't think, as simple as making masks and producing medical equipment and just simple things to just help their own citizens. They can't do this. Their primary agenda is to expand the empire. And that's all they can do right now. And that's what they have been doing in the past, 4 or 5 decades, to expand the empire. But they don't know how to take care of their own people. That's a big problem. This crisis will show you, how their system failed miserably. Their system is a total failure. As the former Prime Minister of Singapore said, Li Guanyao, he once said, democracy only works when you have a somewhat, educated population, that supports it. You know, if you don't have the population of citizens that supports it, and a bunch of dumbasses coming out, and just ruin it, and there's just no, then you're not ready for the democracy. You need to somehow just restrict certain, put some limitations to your kind of freedom, So, all right, guys. Fuck. All right, guys. That's it. So today, April 28th, that's milestones for the United States hitting 1 million coronavirus cases, while Hubei province came down to 0, and the rest of the other provinces, they're coming down real fast in terms of eradicating the infection here. So yeah, we're pretty good here, but we'll keep being precautious about everything else here. Just extremely careful, just to make sure we're not getting a second wave or just reinfected again. I think by now they have somewhat a cure and stuff, but they don't want to officially announce it. But then I think they know how to handle this, with especially the technologies that they have in place with the barcodes and stuff. So, and the main thing is people are listening, people are listening to the government. That's why things went really quick, back to normal. They were able to solve this issue. But if you have a bunch of idiots, coming out protesting and wanting to get a haircut and going back to a casino and all that stuff, it's not gonna work. So anyways, that's it for today. I'll see you on the next milestone. We don't know. At this point, I can't really predict anymore, because at this point it's very unpredictable. I didn't expect these numbers to go into, 1 million. I didn't expect people coming out to protest and then making it worse. So you never know. The only prediction I have is that towards September, maybe October, they're gonna get a much harder time to deal with this when the regular flu comes back, and they have to deal. Yeah, basically, that's a double whammy they're getting here. They will have to wait until they get the vaccine, to solve this issue. But then I think China is ahead in terms of vaccine development, but then the US is lag behind in many aspects. So let's see what's gonna happen. I'll see you guys next time. So I'm actually close to downtown right now. Coming back here, back to normal. Everybody's wearing a mask. So, I'm spotting one guy not wearing a mask. Oh, here we go. Okay, there's an extra clip that I took in the subway just to demonstrate, to show you guys that most people, let's say what I've seen is 99% or 99.9% people wearing a mask. But it was funny, this guy not wearing a mask. He really stood out, because he looked because his neck, his back, his shoulder was kind of burned from the sun. So it kind of reminds me of a American redneck, his haircut, a mullet, and then kind of, reminds me of he's the equivalent of an American redneck, So. So he was the only one kind of ghetto-ish, not wearing a mask, so felt kind of awkward, So he was kind of a loner, standing there without mask. And he's not doing anything wrong, it's just kind of awkward because everybody's kind of sort of used to wearing a mask, no matter what, even if this thing is entirely over, people still wearing a mask. It's just, it's just becomes a habit. You know, you just want to keep distance from people in general, not touching certain things as much as possible. Yeah, and that guy stood kind of out, you know, with his mullet, kind of his entire skin like he was in the sun for a long time. So yeah, he's a Chinese redneck.